So obviously I've been focusing a lot on what happened at the Capitol and the ensuing absurd censorship and backlash and impeachment and everyone essentially losing their mind and apparently their ability to think as well. I've been doing that a lot for the last week, but that doesn't mean that the woke have stopped doing what the woke do, and that is trying to indoctrinate children. This time, third graders. Third graders. For those doing math, that means they are about 8 years old. Now, being 8 years old is actually important because anything that you get into someone's brain by the time they're like 8 or 9 years old, it is extremely hard to change that even as they move into adulthood. This is when the brain is in its most impressionable age, and anything that gets in there this early on, it takes a lot of work to undo it later in life. But Real Chris Rufo, or Chris Rufo, has been focused on this ongoing issue. This is one of the things he talks about a lot. If you are not following him on Twitter, I strongly recommend you do. Here's what he has for us this time. I have no idea how to pronounce this name. An elementary school forces third graders to deconstruct their racial and sexual identities, then rank themselves according to their power and privilege. Third graders, 8 years old, deconstructing their racial and sexual identities. What could possibly go wrong with this? He has obtained exclusive whistleblower documents from inside the classroom. Let's see what he's got here. First, the teacher told the 8 and 9-year-old students that they live in a dominant culture of white, middle-class, cisgendered, educated, able-bodied Christians who created and maintained this culture in order to hold and stay in power. 8 years old. I have a feeling I'm going to be reminding you that they are 8 years old quite a bit in this video. Reading from this book is Anti-Racist. The teacher taught the children the theory of intersectionality and claimed that those with privilege have power over others and that folks, F-O-L-X, do not benefit from their social identities, have little to no power and privilege. Let's just take a look at what they're actually teaching. Intersectionality. Looking at intersectionality helps us to understand how our social identities affect our whole life. Kimberly Crenshaw, a Black female lawyer, author, scholar, and civil rights activist, used the term intersectionality in 1989 to help us better understand that being a woman and Black created greater disadvantages than just being a woman. Third graders. Able-bodied heterosexual, considered handsome, and speaks English has more power than a Black transgendered woman. Those with privilege have power over others. Not everyone has privilege. Folks, F-O-L-X, who do not benefit from their social identities, who are in the subordinate culture, have little to no privilege and power. Some of our identities hold privileges and disadvantages at the same time. And then it goes on. But because I am female, I do not have the same privileges as a cis male has. I am more likely to be overlooked for a position of leadership and get paid less for the same amount of work, while many cis heterosexual men can confidently walk alone at night. I cannot without some fear that I may be harmed, which is all untrue. Like, by the way, this whole side is like completely untrue for, average people, but they're teaching this to 8-year-olds in third grade. The teacher asked students to create an identity map listing their race, class, gender, religion, family structure, and other characteristics. They were told to circle the identities that hold power and privilege. So here we have the identity map that they're being asked to create. And of course, they're being asked to basically evaluate, am I non-binary? Am I transgendered at 8 years old? What are my social identities? And then we have an example here of how that might work out. What parts of your identity hold power and privilege? Circle the identities on this map. And then she basically says exactly like, if you're white, you have power and privilege. If you're middle class, as though 8-year-olds even have a concept of what being middle class is. If you're educated, how are you educated at 8 years old? You're in third grade. Are you educated? Educated in third grade? Okay. In a related assignment, the children were asked to write short essays describing which aspects of their identities hold power and privilege and which were oppressed, in effect, ranking themselves according to the intersectional hierarchy. And then we can see the assignment here, and they're required, at 8 years old, to do at least one full page of writing about their different identities. Some social identities hold power and privilege, others do not. Even within us, there are parts of us that hold some power and other parts that are oppressed. So again, she's teaching probably a good number of them that they're oppressed, which, you know why it's dangerous to teach someone that they're oppressed? Because especially when you are teaching it to them at a very, very young age, they're going to go through their entire lives thinking that the world is against them and that they have no opportunities. And why even bother trying because I'm oppressed? Yeah, that's really a lesson that you want to teach an impressionable younger mind. I swear to God, these people. Parents at the school were scandalized. They were basically teaching racism to my 8-year-old, said one parent, who rallied a half dozen families to protest the curriculum and demand a meeting with the principal. One Chinese American parent compared the training to the Cultural Revolution. Growing up in China, I had learned it many times. The outcome is the family will be ripped apart. Husband hates wife, children hates parents. I think it is already happening here. Luckily, a group of Asian American parents were able to shut down the training. Now, this is important. It didn't come from the white parents. It came from the Asians, which of course we know in the woke ideology, Asians are basically the same as white. They'll say that Asians have assimilated to whiteness, but I'm going to celebrate that this was shut down by Asian American parents, at least one of whom understood the Cultural Revolution in China. But they were worried that the Cultural Revolution is spreading. We think some of our school board members are critical race theory activists, and they must go. So he's got the full story on this Twitter thread. I will link all of this in the description below, and I strongly encourage all of you to follow Chris Rufo and pay attention to what he's saying, because listen, I know a lot of you have left Twitter, which I think is a stupid, moronic decision, because A, you're ceding the battleground to the left. B, where else are you going to go right now? Because nothing else is working. So basically, you just ran away with your tail between your legs. And anytime I say that you should still be on Twitter, people are like, no, Carlin, you just don't want to, you want us to continue to get, blah, 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 whatever. Like, there's lots of whining and complaining every time I say that you should absolutely still stay on Twitter if you are able to stay on Twitter. One of the reasons is that Real Chris Rufo is still on Twitter. At Real Chris Rufo is doing a lot of really good work that we should all know about, and a lot of people are doing the same. And I'm going to be honest, guys, I would really like it if you're still on Twitter that you follow me on Twitter too. I am at Dr. Carlin B, DrKarlyn B. I spell that out because I'm currently being shadow banned on Twitter. So if you are not currently following me on Twitter, if you type it, just do a little experiment. If you're not following me, log out of Twitter or like just try to type my name in the search bar. You're going to see that I don't actually come up at all because I'm currently being shadow banned. I've also lost about 13,000 followers in the last week. So guys, it would really help me out if you are still on Twitter, if you're still using the platform, make sure you're following me. Numbers aren't everything, but again, like I think that there are a lot of different reasons why these things do actually matter in the grand scheme of things. So if you aren't going to help someone out by doing the easy stuff like staying on a platform you're allowed to be on and following people, I don't know what to tell you. All right, guys, that's all I've got for this video. If you enjoyed it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel, turning on notifications, all that good stuff. That's all I have for today, or at least for right this second. I'll see you soon.